1 minute warning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the meeting to order. Did I find my agenda? There we are. If you'd rise and join me in the singing of O Canada. You're not joining me, but actually.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk to take the poll, please.
Councillor Mackey.
Present.
Councillor McKay. So McKay does not appear to be online yet. Councillor Carlton. Councillor Pringle.
Present.
Councillor McQueen. Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Dickert. Councillor Kentner. Councillor Keaveney. Councillor Body. Councillor Gregg.
Present.
Warden Milne.
Present.
Councillor Dobreen. Councillor Matrosovs. Councillor Bourniel.
Present.
Councillor Eccles. Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
We have all members in attendance with the exception of Councillor McKay.
Thank you, Tara. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot peoples on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and the Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Is there any declaration of interest regarding any item on the agenda this morning? Seeing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can make us aware of it at that time. So the first order of business is the adoption of minutes. The first one is the council and committee of the whole minutes dated February 23rd. Would someone care to move? Councillor Dobreen, Councillor Hutchison, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next is the long-term care redevelopment planning task force meeting minutes dated February 21st. Someone care to move those minutes, please? Councillor Mackey, Councillor Carlton? Almost. Any discussion on those minutes? Councillor Eccles.
Thank you. Further on, what's the difference? I see further on in the minutes that Councillor Carlton was put in as the vice chair of, but it's separate. And in these minutes, we've got the chair and the vice chair in the minutes. There's someplace in here that, that we pass a motion that Ms. Carlton, and I just wondered what that was for. Or am I imagining something here somewhere along the line?
Well, I don't know whether you're imagining anything, but I at the moment have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm inclined to think that you're imagining something.
It was Councillor Keaveney be nominated as vice chair of the CEO Performance Evaluation Committee. But that was in the minutes of the. I just,
If I could bring your attention to the fact that we're dealing with the long-term care redevelopment planning task force minutes. The CAO Performance Evaluation Committee is next.
so the chair and the vice chair were nominated for both of those. But it goes through the minutes. But in the CEO, one, the warden is automatically chair and Ms. Keaveney is the vice chair. Why do we need a resolution that be endorsed? Or should we be doing that with the endorsement of the redevelopment committee minutes? That's why I'm bringing it forward right now.
I'll ask the clerk to comment.
Sorry, Councillor Eccles, I'm not sure I understand fully the question, but the resolution to have Councillor Keaveney nominated as vice chair was captured in this draft resolution for the CEO Performance Evaluation Committee minutes. And then the warden, there was no resolution because, as you note, the warden is the chair by default.
Okay. So the tone has been set for the meeting today. Very good. Any other discussion on those minutes? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the CAO Performance Evaluation Committee meeting minutes dated February 23rd. Would someone care to move those? Councillor Keaveney and Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have no closed meeting matters. There are no reports, no bylaws, news and celebrations. Anyone have anything to Councillor Gregg?
Thanks, Warden Milne. I'd just like to point out for council's benefit, within the February e-blast, there was correspondence from the past warden Bellamy family just regarding his passing. And I just certainly want to make sure that all council takes a moment to go back into that correspondence to read that card of thanks and appreciation for the respect that the honor guard demonstrated at the funeral. So I think that's important that all council just finds that in the February e-blast, that thank you card.
Thank you, Councillor Gregg. Any others? Councillor Matrosovs.
Thank you, Warden Milne. I just wanted to report on a follow-up that yesterday was International Women's Day. We had a fantastic event, but I want to say it wasn't just in the Blue Mountains, the town of Blue Mountains, because our key speaker was a Ukrainian mother who has come over here with 3 of her children and has actually, through the generosity of the community of the Owen Sound Ukrainian Village community group, has been able to establish herself right here in Owen Sound. And it really resonated that was a moment of building community for the new people that are coming into our whole county. So I think that's a celebration that we should all consider. And I encourage everyone to follow up. There is a CBC article, CBC interview where you can listen to Olha speak directly. She's now getting into an enterprise. She's an engineer by background, but now she's pivoting to find her calling and will be establishing herself firmly here within the community of Owen Sound. So I think it was a wonderful opportunity for us to see that beyond our municipal borders.
Thank you, Councillor Matrosovs, and it does confirm the generosity and the support of our community, and it also speaks to the resiliency of folks from around the world when they seek opportunities. Any other news? Okay, not seeing any. I'll take a motion to adjourn the council meeting. Oh, Savannah, sorry, go ahead, Savannah. My apologies.
Sorry about that. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to congratulate the 36 PSWs that graduated on March 2nd from the program that we partnered with Georgian College and YMCA Employment Services, all 19 long-term care homes in Grey and Bruce. So Jen and I were fortunate enough to attend that celebration, and 100% employment of every single graduate that walked across that stage is now a PSW in Grey and Bruce. So a huge congratulations to that group and that program.
Thank you, Savannah, and that is indeed a very good point to celebrate. Absolutely. Anyone else? All right, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert. All those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move over to our committee of the whole meeting. I will bring that to order. Is there any declaration of interest for any item on that agenda? Not seeing any. Any business? Well, there are no businesses arising. Delegations. Our delegation is here. I see them. Are you folks ready to? Yep. Okay, what I'm hearing from the clerk is that in case somebody wants to tune in, because you were booked for 10:30, we'll just hold off on that for a few minutes. We'll maybe do a couple, we'll do the consent agenda. Someone care to move? Or does anyone want any of those items removed? First of all, Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Warden Milne. I would like the first item 6A, the AMO homelessness resolution, to be removed for further discussion.
Okay, that'll be noted. Any others? Okay, I'd take a motion to Councillor McQueen to adopt all these as presented with save and accept number A. Councillor Bordignon. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll do that right now if you're prepared, Councillor Gregg. I need a motion to accept it first. Or to receive it. Councillor Mackey, right off the hop. Oh. Man. I know. Well, there you go. Councillor Mackey. Councillor Nielsen will second it. Councillor Gregg, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Warden Milne. This might be the only thing I speak to then today, but I find this AMO homelessness resolution, while incredibly important, that we find solutions for the issues that's within every one of our communities. I find the tone of the resolution incredibly simplistic. To describe it as the result of the underinvestment and poor policy choices of successive provincial governments would indicate to me that they've borne this resolution out of complete ignorance to the fact that this problem exists far beyond Ontario borders, beyond Canadian borders. It plagues every state, every city in the United States. And to just ask our province to be the only stakeholder in resolving the problem, I think is not correctly identifying other contributors to the problem. One of those contributors is federal government policy, which as indicated a couple of days ago in the paper, for anyone that read the issues or the items that are coming out of Niagara Falls, with the amount of hotel rooms that are being provided, and actually stated that individuals that were homeless were being removed from those hotel rooms so that refugees from the Roxham border crossing, I think, who are being bused to Niagara Falls, they went from 67 hotel rooms, which they were billing the federal government for, to 5,000 rooms, I think was the number the Mayor Diodati referenced. And initially it was described as keeping it under the table and not being transparent. I think anytime government tries to keep something underneath the table and not be transparent is probably indicating the government's on the wrong track. But this is certainly a problem here that requires federal government assistance. Their policy clearly plays a role and contributes to the problems that we're all seeing in our communities. To just ask the province for a solution, I don't think is sufficient, and I wish AMO would have worked a little more diligently and a little more passionately and pursued a resolution that also had the federal government contributing both financially and through policy and support to the provinces and the lower tier municipalities in finding a solution to this problem. So I think the resolution should be amended so that there is a catchment of the role the federal government should be playing in pursuing this problem.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Greg. I'm going to make a suggestion that normally the negotiations and conversations between different levels of government are the purview of intergovernmental affairs. And one of the things that could happen with this resolution is that a copy of the motion, in addition to the ministries listed here, could also be expanded to include intergovernmental affairs for the attention of the federal government. If that would at least go some way towards that.
Councillor Gregg, would you be amenable to something of that nature, or would you propose a different amendment?
I think councils should be a little bit more forthright in the direction that's within the motion. It might display itself in the public realm to be a little bit more accurate in identifying the players, as opposed to, I understand the intergovernmental, the back and forth, but just the resolution as it's demonstrated here just seems to lay everything at the province. And we will know nothing about what type of negotiations are ongoing between the province and federal government. And I think there is a role that we should be advocating for, that the public sees that the federal government is indeed playing a role here and contributing meaningfully, and not just in back rooms where we're trying to negotiate support. So I think it should be included actually in the motion. I'm disappointed that AMO didn't actually incorporate better language and to look for support from the federal government to begin with.
So in follow-up, where item C, the County of Grey calls on the provincial government to urgently work with AMO and a broad range of stakeholders. We're also asking the provincial government to work with the federal government then? Do you want it to be that explicit, to work with the federal government to seek support and for resolutions?
That would be close to what I have wrote down. The motion should also include the role which the federal government should work with and financially support municipalities on homelessness. That is the proper place to place it, I think. So that would be the amendment that I would move so that we include that in the motion. They're the ones with the deepest pocketbooks. So they should be at the table as a player.
Okay, so I have an amendment to the motion. Does someone care to second it? Councillor Brody? Okay, any discussion on the amendment itself? Would did the clerk, Sarah, have you captured it, or maybe it's on screen? Is it? She's just working on it. So the gist of the amendment is that we're asking the province to work with the feds to acknowledge the problem and you know, bring solutions forward or propose solutions. Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Good morning, everyone. I agree with the comments made by Councillor Greg. I'm just wondering, in the resolution that's before us right now, It has therefore be it resolved that the council of the county of Gray calls on the provincial government to urgency, and then the three, if we just had provincial government and the federal government to urgently, that would cover off everything I think that I've heard. We're just asking that the two levels of government, work together to end. Acknowledge homelessness in Ontario is a social, economic, health crisis. Commit to ending homelessness in Ontario. That would simplify things if we just added the federal government in there, would be my submission. Thank you.
And I think what the clerk's department has here is essentially what you're saying with. Yeah. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, oh. Got it up. Counselor DeBreen.
I have no question. I just like a pause to see the actual amendment on the screen.
We do that. Well, I'll read the amendment once it's once it's fully crafted. I know. You see, it's true that meetings hate a void. So I knew that we'd fill the time before 10:30 when our delegations were scheduled, so. How we doing, Sarah? Up there. So the amendment is, if you'll allow me to read it while I'm kind of turned here. Oh, there it is. The motion be amended to ask the provincial government to work with the federal government to financially support the homelessness issue. Councillor Gregg, does that catch your amendment?
Yes, it does.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, Warden Milne. Was it not, and through you to Councillor Gregg, was it not to also for the federal government to acknowledge the issue and that it has, it's part and parcel to their policy as well? And this is just asking for financial support.
Well, with all due respect to the mover, I'll ask it once again if that captures what the amendment was. Or if you're satisfied with the amendment.
I think if that amendment is located right prior to then subsequently saying to urgently A, B, and C, then it is asking the federal government to indicate their role or to accept their role in it. So I'm okay with where it is.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Councillor Mack.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. And Madam Clerk, can you just scroll down to the actual resolution, please? Or sorry, up. Yeah, so if we add in federal government, provincial and federal government to urgency, if we add that in there, that accommodates everything I think we're looking for, does it not?
Mhm.
I don't know if that's.
Well, I have an amendment on the floor currently, and the mover of that amendment is satisfied with what's on the screen, so if somebody wishes to make a further amendment to the amendment, I'd be open to that. Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I will move that in the body of the resolution that we add that the county of the council of the county of Gray calls on the provincial government, provincial and federal government to urgently, and then A, B, and C. Just is all we would need to add. So
So I Well, I'm thinking what's happening here is you're back to amending the original motion. But the amendment as proposed by Councillor Gregg, which is what's on the floor currently. So unless you wish to amend his amendment, I'm going to ask you to wait until this amendment either passes or fails before I take your amendment, Councillor Mackey. Okay? Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Mackey, do you wish to make a further amendment?
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Yes, I would like to further amend the motion to add that therefore be it resolved that the council of the county of Gray calls on the provincial and federal government to urgently.
Okay, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Nielsen, discussion on the amendment. All those in favor? That is carried. Very good. So now we're back to the amended motion or the original motion as amended twice. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Excellent. Excellent. Right ahead at 10:30. So I think we're sufficiently close to the delegation time that if the delegation would like to come on up, we have Paul Vickers, Joanne Hughes, and Diane Booker here to present a presentation from the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the Grey County Federation. So ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours.
The green one, right? Good morning, Warden and councillors. My name's Diane Booker, and I'm the president of the Grey County Federation of Agriculture. Hugh Simpson and I have been around to most of the municipalities and have presented to you. This morning, I'm pleased to present with my colleagues, Paul Vicker, who is a zone rep of OFA, which is on the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. He's the zone rep for Bruce and Grey County on the board. And Joanne Hughes is the member service rep for Grey County and Bruce County. So just Grey at a glance, we went over this in our presentation the other day. Just thought another neat snapshot would be there's 259 farms that sell directly from the farm at stands or at your pick your own. And two other facts are 32% of farm operators in Grey County are female and 69% are small farms less than $100,000 in revenue. So I'll turn it over to Paul and Joanne now, and they'll do the OFA part of this presentation.
Okay, thanks, Diane, for the introduction. I'd like to say thank you to Warden Millen for allowing us to speak in front of the county councillor, and thank all the county councillors for your attention. I know OFA has kind of made their rounds to all the different municipalities, and I thought we just try and clarify where all the different levels go, because there is 3 different levels of Ontario Federation of Agriculture. There's the county level, which Diane and Hugh have represented. And then the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, which I represent, and Diane said that I'm the rep from Zone 2, and the Canadian Federation of Agriculture is the national level. So there is a lot of different levels, and sometimes it gets confusing when we're kind of coming towards you and telling you all this different information. I just wanted to try and clarify a bit on all the different levels. So just as a bit of a side note, Keith Curry, who lives just across the border in Simcoe County over there in Collingwood, has just been elected as the president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. So I think that's great that we're having people from up in this area take those spots at the national level. So just to add a little bit more of what Diane said, agriculture in Ontario is a big thing. I think everybody here realizes how big agriculture is. The GDP of agriculture in the province of Ontario is $47 billion. It represents 750,000 people at a workforce level, and they contribute 10% of the Ontario labor force. We export out of Ontario $20 billion worth of products outside of Ontario. So just to kind of give you a little bit more of an idea, And to go with Andrea's talk about International Women's Day, 31% of the farm operators are women. So I think that's excellent, and we're proud of that. On our own board, 7 out of the 18 of our directors are also women, and we're very proud of those numbers.
So we have the Ontario at a glance, but then we've also broke it down to each county federation or each county, sorry. So we do have both of those documents available. You have the gray at a glance, but there's also the Ontario at a glance.
So basically, just a snapshot of the organization. There's 38,000 farm families that are farm operations in Ontario that have OFA as their representative. We're almost to the 39,000. We're just about 100 short. So that's great that we're actually representing more of the agriculture industry all the time with OFA. There is 2 other organizations, the Christian Farmers Federation and the National Farmers Union, and they represent about 12%. We have to go along with that, our PAC committee, which is our grassroots members, who are also members of OFA. Sorry if this gets a little wordy. We have 88 people on the ground level, grassroots level, that then bring up concerns to the provincial level, expressing their concerns and wanting to direct the province of where we're going. There's 51 counties in the province. Each county has their own federation. And then we have 45 experienced staff members representing the interest. And what those staff members, I think this is what I really want to get to the point of to explain to you, that when we have statements made by OFA, they aren't just made up by individuals. They're researched by a large group of staff members that look into the matters and that find the best solutions of what is possible. So I think that's really important. And then our board members, 18 board members, and that's who I am, sort of thing. I kind of contribute to board members as being like counselors, and the staff are the ones that kind of do the heavy lifting and that are there consistently from year after year after year. And the board members are the ones that kind of get moved in and out as the elections go. So Joanne here herself has been a member services rep for 19 years. And she's just actually moving on to another job here in the next coming months with OFA. So our staff are key, just like any municipality. So our research team, we have, so these are our researchers, and they all have different areas of expertise. I should read this. So Jason Bent is our director, and then Ben Lafort. I don't know whether many people know Ben. He looks after the economy and business risk management. Tina Sankula. She looks after everything water and rural. So she would look after some of the rural policies and anything to do with water. Peter Skikanda is obviously labor, broadband, and environment. Danny, she looks after basically animals, anything to do with animal welfare, animal care, trespassing, even the wildlife issues. Danielle Sherman, she looks after the economic development. Ian Noakes is everything about energy, transportation, and waste management. He's been up in the area a few times looking at some of the different projects. If you want to get a natural gas pipeline extended, Ian's the guy that knows all the ins and outs of that. Janice is about the ag research and project oversights of all the different areas that we do contribute money to that do research. We do have another one that looks after planning. She was Emily Sosa, but she has moved on to the County of Brand. So we're looking for a replacement from that. I think Scott Taylor has given his time. I don't know where Scott is behind me. He's off today, is he? Her and Emily and Scott had conversations about different planning acts and changes to the official plan, and it's kind of given some of our policies moving through. So, we're here just to support the county federations. We have 1,600 members in Grey County. We have workshops within the county, and we also have workshops that are province-wide. They seem to be catching on a little bit better since COVID has hit. People are getting more used to doing online presentations, which we're doing some on succession planning.
Underused housing.
Yeah, the underused housing tax, which is getting to be a bit of an issue if people aren't filling out the forms and getting them sent in. So the other thing that we do as a board, and as researchers, we look at about 120 different submissions each year from the province of Ontario. Out of those 120, 50 of them we actually make comments on. They do research, make comments on them, and try and add the agriculture perspective at the basically provincial and municipal levels. Some of the ones that we've done, and some of the ones that a little bit more proud of, was obviously we did one for Bill 23. If you have time, and I think it's in the package, if you want it, it's about 20 pages long, but I think it's an excellent submission talking about what Bill 23, how it affects agriculture. And a lot of the same things that affect agriculture at provincial level is the same thing that affects counties to Grey County. So you can see some of the other ones that the other submissions that we did. We make submissions about energy. Obviously, energy is important to agriculture. Basically, when you think of your food is basically carbon, and we're trying to work away from that. But we can't move away from the fact that our tractors need fuel, our barns need heating and cooling, all through energy. Fertilizer is another one. We made a submission to the federal level, twice last year. One was about fertilizer tariff that was imposed onto basically Ontario and Quebec and Eastern Canada, and also the bill. I can't remember the number of it, but it had to do with the carbon tax on heating and cooling of agriculture facilities. We also have had times that we had a couple of meetings with Minister Bibeau talking about these issues, and we're happy that we can add the flavor of agriculture. The one last thing that we did, we even had a meeting with Todd Smith talking about Bill 23 and how it affects rural Ontario altogether. So we do make comments on quite a few of these submissions, and again, they're well-researched submissions, and they aren't just people talking off the cuff. Here's the next slide showing that. So we'll let Joanne, she's going to talk about this.
So OFA has created many resources to assist municipalities, regions, and community organizations in support of agricultural sector. Policy areas such as land use planning, property assessment and taxation, financial incentives, community food planning, and consultation provide many opportunities for communities to support agricultural growth. So we have resources, one of which is Agriculture Matters. It's a guide for municipal councillors and staff. This guide provides an overview of issues affecting farmers today and identifies opportunities for local communities to support this untapped and sometimes undervalued economic sector. OFA's 51 county federations offer strong grassroots leadership and should be your first point of contact when addressing municipal issues affecting agriculture businesses in your community. So we have a guide and checklist to support agriculture in your municipality. We have resources to support agriculture economic development and planning, municipal job descriptions to support agriculture, working with farmers, a guide to growing solid relationships with farm clients. So there's many resources that we have. All you have to go to ofa.on.ca/growag. And you will find all those resources there. And if you have any questions, by all means, contact myself or the local county federation, and they'd be able to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, and we're quite happy that we've done a lot of work in these areas and that we have them available for anybody that wants to look at them. Some of the other programs that we have the homegrown program. That's basically farmland preservation. We have over 60,000 signatures on a petition supporting our desire to try and slow the rate of sprawl down. Everybody knows the number of 319 acres per day is what's lost of agricultural land is lost. And with Bill 23, we've seen a bit more support coming through for our position about trying to build in and up. It's not only important to limit the amount of agricultural land you use, but also for municipalities to increase the effectiveness of their services. When you start going in and up and using brownfields as opposed to going outside into the agricultural land, you don't have to build any more water lines or sewer lines or roads or sidewalks. And these are the things that we're trying to promote, that we need that land. And to be honest with you, as a farmer, land is what you hang on to with, as long as you possibly can. Like that's the last thing you ever let go, because land is what actually grows everything. Land is what produces those $20 billion worth of exports that leave Ontario. It produces the $47 billion of GDP that we have in Ontario. It all goes back to land. And if the more we lose of it, it just creates a smaller pool of land that we have available to us. The 6x16 was a program we did in COVID times, and it was just the ability for kids to get online and start cooking with local foods and learning them, teaching them how to bake and cook at the home level, as opposed to just buying food in. Our farmer wellness program is something that's supported by the provincial government. It has to do with mental health. It allows anybody in the agriculture industry to be able to phone a number and get some help from counselors that understand farming. Sometimes when you get just like country people don't always understand town people don't always understand the problems of the people in the agriculture sector. So it's one that we're happy to be part of. So here's the point of questions. My name, Diane's name, and Joanne's already taken her name off the list. So I guess she's looking for bigger and better opportunities. So we will have somebody replacing Joanne. So if there's any questions, I just want to say thank you for your time. But if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them or try to.
Well, thank you, Paul and Joanne and Diane. Thank you very much. I know in the past, I've worked with Joanne on different issues, and you've got big shoes to fill there, because Joanne has done a tremendous job over the years. So are there any questions for the delegation? Councillor Eccles.
Thank you. And thank you, Paul and Joanne and Diane. Pleasure. Diane was at West Grey Council on Tuesday. The question is the 319 acres. What does that all include? Does it just include housing growth? Or one of the things that certainly in Grey County, and more so in the southern part of Grey County, industrial growth through gravel pits. Is that part of the inclusion in that or not?
Paul, turn your microphone on, please. No.
There you go. Thanks for the question, Kevin, and through you, the warden. So that 319 acres a day comes from a census. So it's again, it's a number that gets produced through the census report. So we as farmers fill out how many acres of corn, wheat, beans, hay, and everything else goes in, and all those numbers are put together, and then it comes out. And in the last 4 years, when the number that they had for agricultural land in 2016 to 2020, if you do the math backwards, comes out to 319 acres less per day. And where that comes from, to get to your question, is you're right. It goes to roads, it goes to hydro corridors, it goes to housing, it goes to industrial parks. I'll be honest with you, some of that, it won't be a big number, but some of that will come from agriculture buildings. You know, every time you build a driving shed or you build a new barn, you've seen some huge barns being built. All that comes out of the production of land. So that's why it's so important that we try and use our land as efficiently as possible. We realize that we can't ask people to stop building homes, that they need places to live. We just want you to do it in a way that uses the least amount of land as possible. So if you can build in and up, that's way better than just building houses all around. And it seems like there are builders, to be honest, want to build the stick houses. I would love to see more, at least 5-story buildings in apartment complexes or condominiums. There's many parents that want their kids out of their house somewhere, and there's many kids that want to get out of their parents' house. And if we keep building them $800,000-$900,000 houses, it doesn't work. But if you can get them into apartment style, whether they're condos or apartments, it gives them a spot to live. And you think of the carbon footprint, how much less it is on those buildings also. Like any apartment building I've ever been into, the people on the 5th floor never had to turn a heater on. There seemed to be enough heat coming up through the bottom ones. So you look at it, land use, carbon use, a lot of different ways make sense. I watch the news so often and watch what's happening over in Ukraine. And you don't see a lot of sprawl. And I don't know whether it's just the pictures I don't see or what it is, but you look at the places that are unfortunately getting bombed, they're all those 5-story rectangular buildings. They're probably as dull gets, but man, they're efficient to house people.
Any other questions? Oh, CAO Wingrove.
Thank you for your presentation. And I just wanted to note that on March 30th, I understand that there's a farmer wellness initiative that being held in Guelph. And certainly through our paramedics, Rick Tremblay, one of our medics, is going to attend on behalf of the county, but it looks like a wonderful event. It was brought to our attention through Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. They were part of the support for that, but I wanted to say thank you to the OFA for all of the work that you've done in that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. And that's right. That's right. But it's important. I'm glad that the county is picking up on that and having people be able to attend. To be honest with you, I feel OFA and municipal politics really work together well, and we're actually looking for the same goals and the same needs and wants as what the county's trying to provide. So, better roads, better infrastructure, better mental health, all those things are important to OFA, and they're important to the county and to all of you. So hopefully you don't ever look at us as the opposition, that you look at us as comrades as much as anything. And that's why you're seeing us showing up at Roma and Good Roads and AMO. We're there to answer questions that people don't understand or want to learn more about OFA. We want to answer those questions. So thank you.
Any others? Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Warden Milne. And just being that you've kind of touched on some provincial context here, more so than just local. This question is, if you use like just north of the Highway 7 or Airport Road, these peripheral areas in Toronto, one of the greatest challenges I've thought is you can't blame the generational farmer who is sitting on a gold mine of wealth on properties that are just adjacent to what's been developed. But how do we protect those agricultural lands for these individuals that may now be in their 60s, 70s, some cases 80s, and they're looking just to retire for a few years and move off? Are there challenges the OFA is seeing in passing these lands off within families or in terms of succession? Or financially, is this something that is just because I couldn't even guess the value of per acre on these properties now? Is it just financially something that is too much for young farmers to handle? It's an area where we have some of our best farmland, some of it's greenbelt protected, but still it's hard to place blame on the farmer for wanting to fairly retire just like anyone else would. But unfortunately, in this case, they're sitting on land that we're all wanting to protect.
Yep, thank you for the question, Scott, and through the mayor. You're exactly right. You can't blame anybody for wanting to, to cash in the chip, right? Like, they've put up with the traffic for years and years and years. Like, they almost deserve a little bit of a reward. The biggest thing is just to try and slow down the sprawl. And, I know this isn't maybe, county sort of an issue, but, the 413. Like when it goes through, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go through, it's going to take up a lot of farmland. And then I look at the 407 and it's like, well, there's a road that doesn't get used a whole lot. It's basically parallel, just a little bit further south. And I think, didn't we build that road? And didn't we own that road at one time? And now we don't own it. It's in private hands. It's a toll road. I won't take it unless I'm completely desperate. Because I'm just too cheap to fork over the money. But now we're building a whole new infrastructure of the 413. And it's those kind of decisions that are the hard ones to make. Whatever happened years before, I don't know, to be honest with you. But just like development now, it's up to Owen Sounds, it's up to Meaford, it's up to the other municipalities to make the hard decisions, because I know as a former councillor that it's not easy getting people to buy into this. To bring the density and intensity back into the urban centers. People don't seem to want it. And but what else do you do? There isn't another answer. There's no more land being developed or being made. If you don't use the land that you have as efficiently as possibly as you can, then you're wasting it. And 1 acre lots for single homes is not the answer. But when you can start getting that density up to 100 units per hectare, like that's a lot better. Every acre saved is an acre saved. So don't feel like I know in my head that we'll never see that number get down from 319 down to 0. But can we slow it from 319 down to 250? That would be in the next 4 years. That would be a win, in my opinion. And it's the county, it's the planners that have the ability to force the density up and inside on the brown land and inside the urban settings. We have enough land to build houses on it. I'm probably getting a little speechy here now, but we have enough land inside our urban dwellings right now. We don't need to do sprawl further out into the green field. So that's all I can suggest. Just do your best, right? As counselors, as staff, as planners. Just try and do the best to make the best decision possible as you can.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question from Councillor Bordenio.
Thank you, Paul. You said something really refreshing earlier. When we deal with NIMBYism in our municipality, I'm just going to put municipal hat on for 1 second. They always lean to, when we talk about going to a 3-story or 4-story, they always say, well, in our area, we're rural agricultural, the farmers don't want that. It changes the landscape. And what you said was very refreshing. You'd rather go up than go out. We've been having that argument. So it's nice to see an organization, such as the OFA behind that, and I think that speaking at public information sessions at the local level would go a long way for the people to say, oh, well, you know what? The farmers really don't want that. Well, in essence, you do, because it will save farmland. Like my dad's old farm is now a subdivision, but it would be nicer if you could fit going up a little bit, and then the density you get in the smaller footprint would save that acreage. So I found that really refreshing, and maybe in the future we'd look to bring it at the local level just to get that point of view across to some of the people that use you as an argument point, even though it's against the philosophy of what you just said.
Get this figured out, yeah. Yeah, and I thank you for your comments and through the warden. Yeah, and it's tough for OFA to be everywhere, so it's easier for me to come and talk to was there nine municipalities. So this is part of our deal. This is how we kind of have to kind of fight it in the trenches. We can't be at every public meeting, and there's been a couple public meetings in the town of Blue Mountains I've been aware of, but it's hard to get to them all, and this is why we're trying to educate you at this level. So and just one more quick thing, I put a plug in for the politicians meeting on March 25th that it's at the Katy Arena this year. So don't go to Elmwood. Don't get confused. It's in Katy. We had to move it, and we're hoping to see everybody there. And and bring your fellow counselors. We'll talk about a lot of the same things. It'll be repetitive for some of the mayors and deputy mayors, but the counselors will at least be able to hear it also.
And make sure you contact Jackie Pendings if you're going, because
Yep.
she has to book the food. And if she doesn't know you're coming, there won't be enough food. So very important.
Well, I have to say it would probably be the first OFA event without enough food because there's always tons of food at those events. So anyway, thank you, Paul, Joanne, and Diane. Thank you very much for your presentation and the answers. It's been most informative and we dearly appreciate the work that you folks do. Thank you.
And again, thank you, Brian. You gave us a lot of time today and I appreciate that. I know we went well over our 10 minutes, but hopefully you found it worth it. So.
Absolutely. It's always worth it. So moving on, it is 11 o'clock. Does anyone require a break or yeah? Well, let's take 10 minutes. We'll be back at 5 after 11. We'll recess. 1 minute warning. Okay, County Council will bring the meeting back to order. We are on item number 7, items for direction and discussion. 7A is the report on governance follow-up from the Clerk's Department. I will turn the floor over to Clerk Tara. Clearly, in it, we need a mover and seconders. You can remind me even from out there. Councillor Carlton and Councillor Nielsen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, County Council. This report comes before you today as a result of direction from the prior council to bring forward a report on certain governance topics that tend to come up over the course of a council term. So the intention was that should there be a change or an improvement that is to be made, that this would give the incoming and the new council and yourselves sufficient opportunity to think and consider about some of the improvements or anything that you'd like to see more information on or consider changing. So the report discusses weighted voting, council composition, direct and indirect election, term of the Grey County Warden, use of wards, meeting structure, and use of the public commenting or public question periods. The first topic is that related to weighted voting. So weighted voting was established by the County of Grey Act 1993 and is used when a member requests a recorded vote. The votes are allocated based on your number of electors present in your local municipalities, and they're split evenly between the mayor and deputy mayor, with any extra votes going toward the mayor. Across other upper tier governments, the recorded vote practice does vary. It's primarily based on electors, but some municipalities choose to only utilize it during financial votes, or some municipalities don't have weighted votes at all. So it really depends on what a municipality's preferences and practice across the province. Should there be a desire to make a change to weighted voting, there would be notice required, as well as a triple majority required and a public meeting in order to make any changes related to weighted voting. The Municipal Act also outlines restrictions around timing on such change. So any decision that was made, that if it was made prior to January 1st of 2026, the change would be implemented following the 2026 election, once that new council is organized. In terms of council composition, currently Grey County Council is made up of 18 indirectly elected members who are the mayors and deputy mayors from the 9 local municipalities in Grey County. There are various options for council composition that are noted in the Municipal Act, as well as they're listed in the report for your reference as well. Should there be a change desired in relation to council composition, notice would be required, as well as a triple majority and a public meeting. And similar to weighted votes, if the decision was made prior to January 1st, 2026, that change could be implemented when the new council is organized following the 2026 election. Direct and indirect election. Currently, Grey County Council is elected indirectly based on your election to your local municipal offices as mayors and deputy mayors. And the Grey County Warden is indirectly elected as well by this group annually at the inaugural meeting. The question of electors directly electing the warden was put to the local municipalities in 2017. However, the triple majority that was required to make this change was not attained, so no changes were made prior to the 2018 election. Should there be a change desired regarding council composition, the notice would be required, as well as a triple majority, and a public meeting would also be required. If the decision were made prior to January 1, 2026, the change could take effect following the municipal election in 2026 when the new council is organized. The term of the warden, the current term of the Grey County Warden is 1 year. There has been discussion over the years about possibly extending this term to 2 years. However, any recommendations that have come forward have not been supported to make the change to 2 years. Across the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, the term of the warden does vary from 1 year to 2 years, and then one or two municipalities have a 4-year term for their warden. Should that be desired to be changed, notice would be required. As well, there would be a public meeting, but no triple majority would be needed. And if a bylaw were to be passed prior to January 1st, 2026, that change could take effect with the next term of council after the new council is organized. On the subject of wards, the Municipal Act does authorize a municipality to divide or redivide the municipality into wards or to dissolve existing wards. Word boundary changes can also be brought forward by electors in the municipality through a petition. In Wellington County, you'll see in your report a map that shows Wellington County and how they divide their municipalities. So there are 7 local municipalities and then 9 distinct ward boundaries. So they have a council of 16 with 7 local members and then 9 ward councillors as well. And they're the only ones that I'm aware of that actually in terms of an upper tier government that have a ward system in their county. So should wards want to be explored further with this council or a future council, staff would recommend allocating budget funds to an external resource to consider how to establish ward boundaries, because there's a lot of time and resources that would need to be dedicated to that process. Should that change be desired to take place, a public meeting is actually not required, though it would be very recommended that we would undertake an extensive public engagement process to establish wards. A triple majority would also not be required. In terms of meeting structure, prior to the change to the Committee of the Whole structure in 2017, there were standing committees. There were 4 of them: corporate services, social services, planning and community development, and transportation and public safety. They typically met 1 or 2 times a month, and there were 9 or 10 members on each committee, and the warden sat on each committee. So each municipality was represented. The minutes would proceed to County Council for endorsement and ratifications of any recommendations that those standing committees made. And then in 2017, the Committee of the Whole pilot project commenced for a period of 6 months, and then the decision was made to continue with the Committee of the Whole system going forward. There has been some discussion over the years about going back to that standing committee system, but there has never to date been enough support to move back to the standing committee system. Should the change, if council wanted to make that change, we don't have any municipal act considerations in terms of timing, but we would need to make a change to our procedural bylaw and have roughly 6 months time to develop that structure and implement it accordingly. And there would probably be recommendations that it would look different than it did in the past, and we'd have some different membership and different departments reporting to different committees than was proposed in the past. And lastly, we have the public comment or question period. Grey County currently does not have this in our procedure bylaw. But we do have a delegation request process where anyone that wishes to attend county council or present or ask a question of council can contact the clerk's department and schedule a delegation. And then this provides appropriate notice on the agenda that that topic will be discussed at a future meeting. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those. That's all I.
Any questions from county council, discussion? Lots of information there. Councillor Ackles.
Just a quick question, Tara, could you give a description of what the triple majority, how that breaks down and works?
Yes, and I apologize. I should have said that right off the top. So a triple majority is a majority of all votes on the upper tier council around this table. A majority of all lower tier councils that have passed resolutions consenting to the change. So you need 5 municipalities consenting to a change. And then the total number of electors in the lower tier municipalities that have passed resolutions consenting to the bylaw will form a majority of the electors in all of Grey County.
And I just wonder, the majority of votes here, would that or would a weighted vote be allowed in that situation, or was it just a simple majority?
Very good question. I think I'd have to look at that a little further, but I think it would be a majority of like a single vote around the table.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Thanks for your report, Tara. Very comprehensive, and I'm glad the question was asked about the triple majority because I've always been a little bit confused by that, and still probably am. Where are we currently at? We have the 2 committees, correct? Like you talk about moving towards that if we're going back to the committee structure. I was under the belief that we have already made that decision to go to the two committees. Is that accurate?
Sorry, do you mean council and committee of the whole as 2, or which 2 committees?
So we have the what are the name of the 2 committees that we have? I'm looking to Madam CAO. I thought they were already struck in our terms, and we have a terms of reference for the 2 standing committees already that you reference in your report. So I was wondering, does county council need to do something else to forward the work of those 2 committees, or are they already established?
Sorry, thank you for the clarification. No, currently county council doesn't have to pursue anything or change its practices in any way. This report is for information only. So committee of management currently, they meet every other month and they make recommendations to county council, and then those minutes and any recommendations come forward to this table to be ratified. No further process changes are required with regard to the committees that we have that meet on a regular basis.
Yeah, so Committee of Management, the Community Services Committee is the one that we moved forward with this year, which I think kind of takes the place of the one that was in earlier times. I think that what we've tried to do in response to issues or strategic initiatives that council's expressed direction to staff to move forward with is where it was appropriate, we've struck task forces to deal with things. And so then you've got a very like a focused and time limited approach to something. But we have the 2, I guess you can call them standing committees then, one for long-term care operations and the other one for all the community services type work. And the other things like the roads task force, or in the last term of council, things like the Hanover Owen Sound or the mental health and addictions task force were struck to deal with specific issues or initiatives. And then when those were deemed to be complete, the task force is wrapped up, and when we move on from there.
So Madam Clerk, it would probably be fair to say that if there was interest in changing any of these, that a notice of motion would be in order to bring forward whatever change was desired. And then the wholesome debate would take place and the result would be conveyed to the clerk's department. Counselor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Our Community Services Committee met last week and, you know, it was a very good meeting and it certainly provided, at least from my perspective, it provided, you know, all the council members a good opportunity to dig a little bit deeper and find out actually what's going on. We had really good discussions around homelessness programs and around childcare, but through that committee, we took the time and we already established that we think we're going to need more time to actually, because, the scope is pretty broad. Sitting when we had the 4 standing committees, I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to learn more about, the specific committees we sat on, whether it be, transportation, whether it was social services, whether it was planning. From a staff perspective, I certainly understand the amount of time it takes to run the 4 different committees. But I think having the 2 standing committees is certainly something that we should look at moving forward, as quickly as we can, because I do believe there's merit in having good representation from across the council members here to be able to ask those questions and be able to speak to the issues, at county council when they arrive, knowing that there's been a deeper dive into it over the last 4 years. And this is no disrespect to anyone. Sometimes, I feel that we're not getting as much conversation about some of them because we're time limited sitting in county council. And sometimes you don't want to be the one asking too many questions because everyone else is looking at their watch. But, when we have the opportunity in committee, you just felt like you had the opportunity to ask the questions that should be asked. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor Mackey, and you're spot on there. I've often felt that as well in the past. Okay, Counselor Eccles.
Thank you. The Standing Committee on Long-Term Care, is that the proper wording or description of that? Because it's a mandated committee. It's not necessarily a standing committee. So I guess truly we only have one committee because we used to have long-term care and housing, as a standing committee. Then you also have off to the side of it, the long-term care committee, which is not through the municipal act. I think it's through the long-term care act that the county, whoever has a long-term care, shall have a specific standing committee to get rid of the standing, a committee for that. Very similar at the lower tier. You shall have, if you have a police services, you shall have a board or a commission out here. Correct? So long-term, is a mandated committee. So I think we only have one social and the other one there. Just for clarification, that's not really a standing committee, Councillor Mackey.
We just add further to Councillor Eccles' comments. We typically, the ones that we do have, we refer to them as subcommittees. They're not necessarily a task force and that their time is limited, but they are a committee that reports to either committee of the whole or county council. And as you say, long-term care committee of management is mandated by the Long-Term Care Act, and it requires that there is a board, a governance board, to take that function.
Tara, the planning part of economic development also is a requirement.
Thank you. Yes, the Planning Act does require that an upper tier municipality with planning responsibilities shall have a planning advisory committee. So that function has been, it will be satisfied when we bring forward the membership for that Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee. That's another mandated one as well.
Okay. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Tara. Next item is the Community Improvement Plan update. And Savannah is going to bring that report forward. So welcome, Savannah.
Thank you very much, County Council. Do I need a mover and seconder before I can go? Yeah, okay.
Yes, you do, but normally it's the clerk that reminds me, but that was good. Because she was just about to do that. I was just about to ask for a mover and seconder. Councillor Bordignon, Councillor DeBreen will second. All right, Savannah, thank you very much. We'll talk later.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Warden and Council. We're really pleased to be able to talk about the CIP report from 2022 and the report cards that came back from each of your member municipalities on the results that we've had to date. As you know, the CIP program launched in 2019 after much consultation with all of our member municipalities and developers and business community. It was built with and for our municipality as a tool to grow the assessment base and to assist in becoming more investment ready. The program is meant to enable and boost development that wouldn't otherwise necessarily happen, and right on the ground, because that is where investment happens in each of your communities. Financial support is provided to local municipalities to assist with the various incentives adopted through local CIPs. So the county developed a program, and then each local municipality identified and adopted their own CIP. So 8 of 9 municipalities have them adopted, and the last one will be adopted this year, which is really exciting. So the financial commitments range anywhere from the $20,000 per year in cash contribution that came from the county. So included in the 2023 budget was our final year of that contribution as per the program outlined right now. There are other incentives, including participating in tax incentives, providing surplus land, reducing or waiving application fees, development charges, and those are the types of incentive menu that we put forward and adopted as council. So to date, council has approved 2 different tax incentives at this table. All of the other incentives are approved locally. Anything to do with taxes where county is participating needs to come forward to this table. So that is what happened so far to date. And the next meeting, actually, we're going to be bringing forward the agreement and bylaw for the first tax increment equivalent grant with the town of Hanover. So that one is actually exactly what Paul was talking about today. It is 2 6-story, 71-unit multi-residential attainable housing builds in the town of Hanover, which will bring forward some much needed housing in our communities. So it's through the introduction of the TEAG, that's what we call the tax increment equivalent grant, because it's a really long name to call it every time. So the TEAG, it really illustrates the acceleration of investment in the figures that you see in the report here. So that is phasing in net new assessment, incrementally introducing that assessment to the role, allowing the developer to reach the full property taxes payable up to a period of 10 years. So this is important because it strategically reduces those upfront costs for the developers, allowing those savings to be passed on. And that's part of what is helping us create that attainable housing. So for municipalities in the county, the TEAG really helps to tip the scales when a priority development might not otherwise happen. So some results to date, really exciting results to share with you. So as I said, 8 of our 9 member municipalities have their CIPs in place. The CIPs launched in 2019, so just prior to the pandemic. And as you can imagine, there was very little investment made through that program during the pandemic. But coming out of the pandemic, we have seen a real rise in investment, and that's really exciting for us. So last year, I brought forward a report that talked about 89 grants that were issued with public funds of $547,000. Private investment of $1.69 million for combined public-private investment of $2.241 million. 2022, we have 47 grants issued, public funds of $2.1 million, private fund invested $20.219 million across the county. So congratulations, that's a huge figure. That total public-private investment is just over $22 million in 2022. So future considerations on what we're asking you today, this was intended and approved as a 5-year program. So it started in 2019 and was meant to end this year. But given the pandemic, we lost approximately 2 years of planning and implementation. So given this unforeseen delay, staff would recommend the council considers extending the December 31, 2023 deadline for our municipalities to spend those cash contributions and to participate in the program for another 2 years to account for those CIP lost years through the pandemic. With council's endorsement of the 2023 budget, each municipality will have received the full cash contribution of the $100,000 over the 5-year program. So for those who have not yet fully implemented those programs, all of those funds are being held locally in your reserves earmarked for this program specifically. So the intent has been to offer targeted incentives countywide through the adoption of the local CIPs within settlement areas and rural areas. So this covers all of Grey County, and that was a stipulation of the program. I think the only stipulation we put on the program. But given the investments that are resulting, staff would like to consult with our member municipalities about what it may look like to extend or amend the CIP going forward. Given the results that we're starting to see, we really think that it's working, and we would like the opportunity to speak with your municipalities and developers and businesses to see what it might look like to come back to this table with a future report and an amended CIP program going forward. So those are the two asks we have today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Savannah. Are there any questions? Not seeing any questions. You've done a really good job, like always, Savannah. Thank you very much. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have, council, we have two matters to deal with in closed session, so I would propose a motion. The committee of the whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss one, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards, but specifically Eden Oak Trails Head at the OLT, and two, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, and specifically a cybersecurity update. Would someone care to move? Councillor McQueen, seconded by Councillor Matrosovs. All those in favor? That is carried. So we will